Well, thanks for joining me this morning. My name is Mike Solomey. I'm a principal data scientist at Salesforce Einstein in the UX cloud. I'm here to talk about some of the items in the function repository that I broke out of my personal libraries and documented during the course of the last year or so. One of the less interesting tasks in the life of a data scientist is what's called ML Devops. And it's sort of captured by the given quote that a data scientist is 90% getting the data in, and the other 90% is getting APIs out. Anyone who rode the deep learning wave since 2009 will certainly have an appreciation for the complexities of the Python ecosystem and lots of design flaws. But we've come a long way, and the tech stack is tall, no doubt. But still, packaging up models after you've done the hard work, right, it's annoying. Getting the code into a clean, scalable web service can be extremely non-trivial in certain cases. A lot of complicated engineering processes, resolving interdependencies between hardware and libraries and frameworks can be a big pain. And this is a plot of the runtime dependency graph of Firefox, what's known as dependency hell. So you can get stuck there a lot. And so you see, I was quite taken with the simplicity of the resource function system. The concept of building an anywhere callable function, single interface, it's really a beautiful thing. And so I'm going to talk to you about these functions I've added. They mostly fall into the bins of visualization tools, general sort of dev tools, and machine learning and computer vision tools. That's where my expertise is. And so this word cloud is a picture of the functions. Some of them we'll cover. And the rest of the talk will basically be like a tour de force of just rapid fire examples. And but it's my hope that you'll take away, maybe a few of them are interesting, useful, maybe, but what I think is slightly more interesting or equally interesting is the guiding sort of ideals that drove their development. Why did I make these specific functions? And what are some of the design principles that they tried to adhere to and achieve? So the first piece of motivation, or the first principle, comes from Brett Victor. Do yourself a favor. If you're watching this video as a recording, pause it, go to YouTube, and watch Brett Victor's Inventing on Principle. It is absolutely fantastic. He's a guru of mine. His principle is that creators need an immediate connection to what they create. This applies to all creative fields, but in CS, we're talking about the need to help ourselves code without blinders on. That is, if you make a design decision or change a piece of code in some way, you need to be able to immediately see the effects downstream and to be able to inspect what changed and how, right? So you sort of want to see what you'll get before you get it. And so in this first swath of 8 visualization functions, this principle is very much informed all of them. So let's jump right into them. So starting with expression viewer, the motivation here is if you have some giant complex expression and you want to find something in it, you could use position, but that doesn't show you where it is. It just tells you, right? So the idea here is to dynamically see the parts and levels as you traverse the expression graphically. And so I can just go and say, hey, oh, this is what I want, find me. And I can click it and get the part. And I can see it change in the status menu, exactly what part spec you need to get whatever you're selecting, right? And so then it's easy to find. And it's fun. You can, play with the different color functions, and you can change the rules, and you can change how you treat different heads and things. And it's really nifty. Next up is dynamic list view. It's closely related. It's basically it is what it says. It's a dynamic view into a list. So here we're using the modern, whatever is called interval slider. And you can change its width, change the paging, you can scroll through in different ways. And essentially this is like a counter to the design, what I think is a bit of a flaw, or it's less than optimal in many cases. So this elision here, it doesn't really help a lot of times. And what you really want to do is just get a few of them, of the items in a view, right? And just be able to say, okay, this is the first thing, the second thing, this is the third thing, I can page in and out. And you can do this with whatever, lists, associations. You can do it with map indexing, right? So a lot of times you need to do things that are dependent on both the value at the position and the position. You can show counts, you can change how the page looks, you can color things. I guess that's the same as the previous. So yeah, that's a great one. Highlight cases is cool because, again, just like cases will tell you, it won't show you what and where it is. And so you can mix and match patterns in here, and you can get a nice visual to really understand what the pattern is defining. Dynamic map is a favorite of mine. I think it was the first function ever to show progress on the function repo or in Mathematica. So the modern thing is progress tick, evaluate with progress, really awesome, well done. Front-end team is doing really great. Work with that. Auto parallelism, you'll get that for free with Roman Mader's brilliant parallel map progress research function. But if you want all those features and partial results, meaning that if you interrupt the computation, you'll still have the work that you did, dynamic map is your friend. So unfortunately, it looks ugly because of the weird scaling bug with this style sheet, the slideshow style sheet that they haven't fixed. But as you can see, you can abort, and as you can't do in Texas, you can get what you, the work that you've done, and everything else will be left off. Now, you can do this in parallel. Again, this will use parallelize under the hood, and you'll get your speed up from your whatever 8 kernels, and you can say, oh, I only want to use 2 kernels instead. Let that finish. You don't get partial results on the parallel call, unfortunately. Right, so you can map over associations, you can map over lists, you can map over whatever you want. Another cool one, dynamic string search. So this comes from sometimes you really have a lot of things that you want to search through, and you have a string pattern or something. And there's really no way to do that in a live visual way. So I just added this, and I think it's very useful, especially for super large ranges. So you couldn't do this if you use appearance very long. Then you get this special sort of lazy list thing that will work. Then you can search even though it's ginormous. So a normal either list view or what have you would freeze if you were doing something similar with 100,000 different strings. Sample colors. This is a general utility function, very, very useful. So I'm super excited for the color repository, but until that's ready, this is sort of the best thing that's out there as a convenience for choosing end colors. Right, so what's great is that it works on all the 4 color data domains, even if it's discrete or if it's a real domain 0 to 1 or not. It will figure it out and it will do the right thing. And it's based on a helper function that's also there called equisample, which should have been in the library, standard library, but I guess it wasn't. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Now this is fun. The cosine color function, it was invented by this brilliant guy, Inigo Quiles, who is a brilliant graphics programmer, and I would highly recommend checking out the Book of Shaders. So the Book of Shaders to get started in GLSL is the place to go. It's really a beautiful tutorial, and I know Yutsu is going to be talking about GLSL, and I'm very excited for his talk. So definitely go check him out, the graphics wizard. And I program in CodeLife to use. It's probably the best SDK out there. So what does this do? Well, it belies another principle, the principle of using GUIs whenever possible. In particular, using GUIs to build self documentation. Interactive documentation is a key thing that mathematics has gotten right for decades, and nobody else has really realized that this is very important. And so you can build your JavaScript widget in your Jupyter notebook, but it's not a homo-iconic solution. This is really beautiful. So when you don't specify, you usually get a list of things. But here, when you don't specify, it gives you just a GUI where you can explore this parameterized space of all these awesome color functions. It's really fun to use. You get a lot of good ones very quickly. I've sort of probably messed them up already, but yeah, I mean, check out his site, they're like mesmeric, they're beautiful. Yeah, so this is a great way to get awesome colors until we have the color repo, of course, and it integrates all the different sources, brewer data, and all the new types of coloring functions. So let's wait while, oh, there it goes. Okay, cool. So here's sort of the most popular ones, and you can get those. And then you can apply them using these other functions. So there are 2 or 3 tree visualization functions that I've added, but I have been waiting to see what, they don't work yet on the built-in tree, but hopefully they will. I will update them, sure, but I want to see what the visualization team does first. So I'm sure whatever they do will be a lot better. This is a cool implementation. It gives you control of margins and all sorts of nifty labeling things. And the Polar version, the default color scheme comes from an app called Daisy Disk that I fell in love with for macOS. And it was sort of it was like the killer app, whatever, how many years ago for visualizing your disk space usage. And so, okay, this is a fun tree function. Cool. So that's it for visualizations. I have 2 more groups of functions: developer tools and image processing, like CV stuff. So for the ergonomics, I put a bunch of very simple but very useful things in, very teeny tiny little tools to make happy coders, right? So giving syntax sugar, desugaring, and filling out the space. Sometimes things are glaringly missing, like there's a list picker, but there's no grid picker, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, we filled that in. And the first thing for ergonomics is your UX should be personalized, meaning like all UX should be personalized. And that just means it's beautiful for you. It's what you want. And I applaud the LSP work that's been done and a bunch of other things. I love the front end. It's not a wall of ASCII code, right? We don't want to put Fido in a cage. We don't want to be imprisoning ourselves, right? We want to make ourselves free, and also to have healthy eyes. So I added dark mode. It fixes a lot of things that reverse color doesn't work on, like data sets and a bunch of other stuff. There's Ivy theme, and someone else added a Dracula theme based on my template. And well, there should be Solar Eyes and a bunch of other ones. And hopefully there'll be a repo for themes. And just a quick note, so I added a fork, and I merged the pull request into Prism.js. It's this great extensible syntax highlighter in JavaScript. So it's built on a fairly modern, you'll see Wolfram down here. Yeah, it's modern web standards, zippy regexes. So into this, I added initial support for Wolfram language. So if you write an Electron app or have some downstream web apps where you support Markdown and you want to have syntax highlighting for Wolfram language, you get that for free. Okay, so that's a cool little thing here. Wolfram language, I added some examples, parses numbers and comments and strings and stuff. So that's awesome. For convenience, we have all these. They're very simple. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I will call out this one. This is a favorite of mine. We don't have anything like it, and we really should. I mean, it's crazy. Humans think in terms of certain scales, and you can conform these raw quantities to them. Machine learning. Okay, so first principle, always use the best tool or model. So that's not dependent on language or framework, doesn't matter, use the best tool. And I have this obsession with state of the art. So I'm always reading papers and finding, oh, this is performing better than that. Oh, this library does this thing better. This is better than this. And, there's a lot of FOMO in life. It's bad at Instagram and social media, but for technology, it's okay. And so to be up with the latest and greatest, I had to add this one function called set language cell. So there's before this function, there was no way to tie external evaluate to the external language cell. So you get different, you would have different sessions. But that's annoying because sometimes you want to paste in a blob of code and you want to do an external evaluate. And sometimes you just want to type in something and see what the output is, right? And use a really nifty conversion from NumPy to numeric array and all that stuff. And so now you can do that. And so you can verify that values are the same. Train test split, obvious. What is that? Loss layers. So it would be cool to have maybe, I don't know if there should be its own repo. Or part of the NN repo, or maybe part of the function, formula repo. But these are all great, and you can very easily implement new fancy layer types, and you can, especially with function layer and so on and so forth. This was an old thing, focal loss layer. It's an old, but an oldie but a goodie from Facebook. If you have extreme foreground, background, class imbalance, right? If you're training like dense detectors, this might be an issue. This guy comes to the rescue. As you can see, what it's doing is shown here, right? It's addressing the class imbalance by reshaping the standard cross entropy, that's CE here, such that it downweights the loss assigned to well classified examples. And there's a bunch of other ones that you can add and that I will add, but I have limited time, so I'm gonna skip this one. I have a bunch of resource functions that I'm about to soon add. Neural summarize, people have been asking for things like this. Vitali wrote a nice keyword plot that does keyword extraction. You can time series it or graph it over corpuses. And I'm also adding the conda manage. So when you get conda manage, right, you can put it, conda wraps pip. So it's strictly more powerful. And that'll enable you to do is to install the Qt tech stack, right? So you need OpenGL, you need PyGraph GL, you need all these different dependencies to get to something like this. So no matter how good you make the front end, it's never going to be able to, jump out of warp speed and be, modeling, millions and millions of points like a raw OpenGL, right? You just can't do it yet, but who knows? But that'll enable us to call that stuff from Mathematica using external evaluate, which is really cool. So also, I have a utility for doing GLSL stuff that'll maybe help just do code assistance with your shaders. So the last group of functions are the image processing, and there are a bunch of get a random photo functions in the repo, and they're all nice, but I would love it if someone could add a free web image search replacement. I just haven't gotten around to doing it, but there are rights free and other free ones that you can do without draining your service credits, which I do quite frequently. Sub-image apply, well, that's self-explanatory, right? Sometimes you want to apply to an image, but not the image pieces of the image, and that allows you to do that with arbitrary operators. InstEffect, this is a fun one that I did with Jesse Friedman from Wolfram, great guy, yeah, so you can implement the effects, the well-known filters from things like Instagram as CSS transforms, and you can do that natively in Mathematica as well. Video color map. This was inspired by the old Disney app, Touch Press, right? So now we have video. Now we can do this in parallel. Now you can very quickly get out these lovely little color maps for each image or for each frame, and then stack them. It's processing intensive, so your mileage may vary. Tour video is going to be great. I'm excited for that. But this was a prelude to it, and I was always excited about this one because back in grad school when I had to do these sorts of things, it was, it's also just command line, and now it's wrapped up so nicely. You can calculate smart, viewpoints and get beautiful, seamless animations of molecules and of graphs of anything, right? So all your functions should work on everything. That principle of omnivority. And then this one's cool. This is interactive. If remove background doesn't work, what do you do? Well, you can. Let's make this bigger. You can add. You can use locators. So let's do that. Let's add a locator here. And now let's move around, increase the strength. Let's move this guy down here. Let's add another locator over here. And now we have a good parsing. And you can change, okay, that's too tight. Let's make it smoother. Let's do some feathering with the softness there. Increase the softness, increase the smoothness. Well, yeah, you get the idea. It is inspired by, they have a tool in Pages or Keynote that does that. So I've worked on a few other functions that I really loved in the past year, just for fun. One I worked on with my friend Sam Blake. Some of you may know. He just was pretty famous because he cracked the code of the crazy Zodiac killer. But anyways, this is a beautiful little function that just takes a partial sum and can figure out and deduce using smart searching heuristics what the probable, most likely simplest form of the generator is. Bug out effect, this was fun too. This is an example of a compiled function for images, and it just does that to your eyes. Really cool. Lifetime chart. This is nice. I have a good printer, so I print out these fancy SVG posters. It's a little, I don't know, it's slightly melodramatic function. It displays your age in terms of weeks or months. And there are a lot of things like that. So that was everything I wanted to show. So let's just summarize. We've highlighted some of these so-called super functions that I hope you find useful in a few different topic areas. And we highlighted a couple principles that just keep in mind. So there's Victor's principle. There's always have the best tools, right? And so that means that you can have a state-of-the-art FOMO is okay, and that if you need to call to Python or integrate with multilingual connections, that's what you should do. And user interfaces should be personalized to be the best for you. Also, leverage UI generation. Most languages can't do this in place, right? This is very special. And lastly, you know, I love my job. Not everyone has the luxury of working in a software job that they love, but if they're in software, they should still take 10% of your time, just work on fun projects. That's what I say. Can't spell function without FUN. Very lame. And I would be wrong if I said that I was anywhere in the top number of contributors. I mean, I guess I'm there, but you know, as this word cloud shows that I computed yesterday, the size of the name is based on the number of published resources. There are many, much more dedicated contributors to the function repo than me, myself, and I spoke with the ones that I wrote because I know about them, but they're not my favorites. These are my top tier list of my personal favorites. And all these you should definitely check out. Very impressive pieces of functionality. I mean, yeah, really great stuff. Michael Trott's, his submissions always have 50 pages of documentation. It's amazing. So anyway, this is from Michael Trott too. And this is with export 3D graphic, export rotating GIF of the Superman Lemina 3D projection. So that was everything I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. That's all I have. If you feel so inclined, answer the poll in Pathable and put in questions there. I'll try to answer them in the remaining 3, or I can go over 10 minutes, whatever. So thank you so much. And I look forward to answering your questions. Have a great rest of the conference.